Traveling with the queen of rock and roll. The COVID hit, now we're stuck at home. Instead of sitting on our ass, we came up with this sick podcast. Crewicide, Crewicide. Out of my way, you're in my line. Crewicide, Crewicide. The main four pitch that sticks all night. Crewicide, Crewicide. Ha 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 ha. Crewicide, Crewicide. No autographs tonight. Can I get a set list, man? Hey, set list, please.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Crewicide Live with Annie Stoic, Beef Henderson, and our third member of crime, Donnie Blackheart.
How's it going?
What's up, dude? What's up,
doing?
Annie?
How you doing, Donnie?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. And you're in Texas, correct?
I'm in Austin.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. And here it's cold for us. I can't imagine what it's like for you guys right now. So.
Yeah, we just got a big snowstorm.
Dude, it's fucking white. It's white Christmas here, man. You know, I love Texas. You know that. There's nothing like Texas. There's nothing like New York. The respective, skylines of different areas. But, oh, my God, there's something special about Christmas in New York. And you know it,
yeah.
man. You've been here enough.
Yeah, totally, man. No, almost 2 years ago now, we did a show close to Christmas. And over near the pier. Remember that, Annie? With
Oh, yeah.
Zach left for that one, and we had
Oh yeah, I remember that. I came in and I was there for a minute.
Yeah. I remember then I was freezing, man. I was like, I'm not used to this. This is crazy. Yeah. So,
Annie should have brought the camera out to show the snow moving of the car routine.
Yeah, there's like 6 cars in the driveway right now. It's like a whole episode.
oh wow.
So, for those of you who are catching up here, this is Donnie. Donnie's been with the crew now at least 4 years, 3 years?
Going on 3.
3 years. He's been with the crew almost the exact amount of time that Mr. McDermott has been with the band.
A little longer, I think. Maybe close to 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, something like that.
So this is the timeline. I was drum tech between 2005 and 2009 and 2014 and everybody in between. Then Brandon took over. We're going to drag his fucking ass on here next. Yeah. Brandon took over for as drums when I ended up going. And then McDermott came in the band, and lo and behold, we get Donnie, whose illustrious career in the music business would probably start when, how old were you?
For me, it started when I was around 13, 12 or 13. Yeah. So I got lucky. A friend of mine lived down the road from me. His uncle was a killer guitarist, and he was like around 20s, like late 20s at the time. And he just stayed home all day and smoked weed and asked us to come over and play music, man, and basically would give us lessons here and there and stuff like that. Basically, we were just his rhythm section. He needed a rhythm section while he went nuts on his guitar. So, he gave us some pointers, and we took off from there. And it's really cool because there was probably about 3 or 4 of us, and we're all still drummers today. So
that's awesome.
Awesome. Very, really young at the time, so it's really cool, man.
And then you went on to touring in a band.
Yeah.
Correct, right?
Yeah, I did, and that was cool. I did that for a few years. Did some touring with them, and then also went out and did some other touring with other bands, helping them, with like selling merchandise and stuff like that on the road. Kind of, you know about that, Andy, but I don't know about your stuff.
That's awesome. When you what was the doesn't matter what the name was, I guess, because whatever, you started like really like getting a feel for the stage at that point where you were just like, I want to do this all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I just kind of got thrusted into it. I always wanted to, kind of jump on the big stage and stuff like that and play. And we, I guess, we got really lucky and kind of felt like overnight we were kind of just thrown into starting playing big shows. Of course, opening for other big bands.
What were some of the bands that you opened for?
Yeah, Donnie's playing down his touring
Yeah, what the fuck?
as a drummer.
What's the name of the band you were in?
I was in a band called Phoenix CX. It was yeah. We played with we opened for Blink 182 a lot, Bad Religion. Did a lot of touring and of our own, and played with other bands in that genre, like Newfound Glory, Jimmy Eat World, stuff like that. So it was.
We like Jimmy Eat World, right, Annie?
What?
We like Jimmy Eat World.
I love them.
I think we did a gig with them once.
Vans Warped Tour. So that
right.
little circuit of things in the late '90s. So
that's right. You were at Warped Tour in the late '90s. You did it like early on, as compared to when it was really established in the mid 2000s. It would have been like, oh shit, it's been around a while. My first Warped Tour was 05, but it was I was touring, like you said, you were in bands. My story goes all over the place, but basically I was working at SIR. I walked into a rehearsal and there was a hardcore band playing super heavy hardcore music. And I was just, going at it. And they're like, oh yeah, we're like a rap metal band. And I ended up jumping in doing backups, heavy backups and like hype man shit. And I did the Warped Tour in 2005. And that was a completely different Warped Tour than 2006 with Joan. I can only imagine what the Warped Tour was like when you started playing it.
Yeah, it was all pumped in, man. It was, bands like Blink, Blackwagon, Pennywise, No Effect. All those bands up and down, 10-Foot Pole, Pulley, all of those bands. And it was cool, man. It was a lot of hanging out too afterwards. Always like a barbecue type of thing going on.
There was a barbecue band even back then, huh?
Yeah, totally. So
I remember it was 8 Fingers Down when it was our tour. And I remember about a year ago running into this guy, Nick, who was like their bassist or guitarist, and he was managing a band. And I was like, fucking dude, I know you from Warped Tour 06. And he's like, dude, you're Beef. I'm like, yo. You run into these people years later from Warped Tour, they still fucking remember you because it was a good time, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, totally. And McDermott is another one, Mike. So,
that's where you started your association with him?
Yeah, exactly. And also through a mutual friend, Rhino. You guys know Rhino. So
I was you took the words out of my mouth. I said that was probably right about when Rhino was making his bones on that tour. By the time I met him in 06, he was working for NoFX, Less Than Jake, and of course McDermott and the Souls. At least 3 bands.
Oh, he was, man, yeah. That guy's resume is crazy with all that stuff. So yeah.
And then I saw him at the Garden years later. We're gonna get him on the show. We got it. But we got him on. I met him when he was doing Tenacious D.
Oh yeah, totally.
Goes, and I got more stories about that when we do our LA story. You got to come on for the LA stories, Donnie, too.
Yeah, but he's diverse too. He's done like George Benson, stuff like that. So he's done it all, man. He's so he's someone good to know. He knows everyone.
He's a great guy, really good guy. You met him before, Annie, right?
Oh yeah. We met a bunch of times. I saw him at NAMM early this year.
Right, yeah.
When we were allowed to go places and things. Right. So yeah. When would you say was like your first like official drum teching job? And is that really what did you just kind of fall into it, or were you like, yeah, I could do that? Cool.
Well, I've always played drums and for like close to 30 years now. And Rhino, speaking of Rhino, he used
always goes back to him.
Yeah, totally. He was my drum tech when I was in Phoenix CX. And so he always had this love for drums. And it's crazy because he he looks at them completely different than how I look at them. I just want to play them. You know what I mean? Of course, I love the tones, but he's like breaks it down scientifically. You know, and that's why he makes drums today. You know, that's what he does. Also, among other things, tour managing. But with that said, on his off time, he was kind of thrown into a backline job from a company that was based out in Nashville. Yes, in Nashville. And they had an office in Austin. Well, they needed something in Houston, so they asked Rhino. Rhino said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So he was working out of like this little rental place, like storage rental place, and he had a few, few drum kits in there, a few amps and stuff. It was very minimal. Well, it blew up, and he needed help, and I was going to school at the time for like an audio engineering degree, and Rhino was like, "Well, you can come while you're going to school here, and and after you're done, you can you can do what you need to do." So I was like, cool. So I went to the backline company, only really wanting to deal with drums, and he's like, "Well, if you work here, you got to know everything. You've got to know these amps, you have to know these keyboards." So he'd sit there and he taught me, and I learned things and go online and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Then he started sending me on my own gigs. I really started liking it. And he would go out and he helped me, and then he'd hire other people, brought other people on, and we basically reciprocated, helped them. They grew, and one day Rhino's like, "Hey," he tells me, about McDermott. He's like, "Needs a drum tech," and I was like, "Well, I'm always down, especially for Mike. Yeah, for sure."
Oh, he's about sure.
And that's basically how I got really into teching, by working for a backline company. So to answer your question, and I think from that I had
Same
the confidence,
here.
right, and that's why I kind of felt I had the confidence to at least. I'm like, well, I said, but that's the thing though. Backline company was cool. It was basically pretty much just a
training ground.
That too, but a run and go, like set it up and get out of the way. You know what I mean? Where here it's like set it up and be very detailed. Exactly. So, and that's what I really love about it. I get to, and especially it being the instrument that I play, so
right.
for me, it helps a lot. I get to, and I'm probably more anal about those drums than Mikey is. You know what I mean? So, I'm detailed, and yeah, I love what I do. I'm glad that I get to do it, and it's awesome. I feel very blessed, and I don't even really use that word much, but yeah, I feel that way, So
I think you hit on some real good things there. Annie's situation, which she could talk about in a minute, obviously. I mean, you guys know, but we always like reiterating. You came from it stems from Rhino right on down to a backline company, and this whole podcast is about crews and shit and what we do. And the production / backline company is a big fucking part about slipping into this industry, as Donnie has just said. It was SIR for me, which Donnie knows is, the national, one of the most biggest national companies.
Absolutely.
And Annie, although she's a goddamn monster, she got in through the business, the label, which is kind of almost rare. And not rare, but to slip into production through the label, I was very, very happy to know that they did that, because a lot of times, you work for a label, you get in with an artist and you want to do this type of shit, but you have no experience,
Right, exactly.
But you were really lucky to have Rhino there as a mentor. Myself, I used to treat it almost the same way. I had guys like Joe Muller. I had guys like Kevin Herdman, who's huge. He's on the Lou Reed crew. Gary Hood, before he started working for Joan. Right. This guy, when I got to SIR, Gary Hood was like top of the list. He had a fucking Billy Squier tech case because he was working for Billy Squier. I was like, oh my God. I always reiterate, it's always good to have good people around you. If not for Rhino, you probably would have, gone on a whole different path,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'd probably still be at the backline company, which I fairly enjoyed, man. I mean, I got to play with instruments all the time and, learn them and stuff. And being in bands at that time, I had, at least for us, one of the perks was being able to use any of that equipment whenever we wanted to, man.
Oh yeah, especially if there's studios too, free rehearsals,
I mean, yeah. So, I mean,
albums, recordings, everything.
So, I love that, man. And it was
fun.
cool. Everyone that worked there was super cool and super rad. And it was a good crew, we had. And it's unfortunate right now with COVID and everything going on, man. Things look pretty bleak, for a lot of the guys there that were in that crew, and I'm sure it goes for saying for all around, all around the world, actually. So,
Right. Well, and then also you do, just to go back to like you working at a backline company, you get to have that experience of being the backline, the vendor, and then now you're the drum tech, because we do a lot of fly dates, things like that. We're relying on the backline. So now you get to experience it on the other end.
Right. Exactly.
And I feel like that helps like with like your work ethic, I guess, with like, well, this is how I like to be treated when I'm the backline person.
Right.
So,
and it also helps that the lingo between backline when you have to get backline, So now when you're dealing with the backline company that brought everything for you, now everything seems to be cool, like they get it. Like, oh, you're a tech too. You get it. You were in backline. That's rad. And it seems that they want to go a little further for you, because I know I did.
You're damn right they do. You're absolutely right. If you talk the right talk, and he knows this,
Right. And
if you don't, that's great, man. You're right.
And it helps. It's really cool. And those guys, man, when I wish them all well. I wish that they all landed an awesome job, a great tech job, because we've had great people out, it seems like everyone we've dealt with backline wise has been amazing, so.
Have you got, hey, Annie, do you remember East Bay Dave?
Maybe.
He was a guy out of Minnesota, might have been before your time. Donnie, do you remember East Bay Dave?
I feel like we might have ran into him recently, but I'm not sure.
I don't know if he's doing it, but like you said, he was somebody that was associated with us for a while. He was a backline guy out of Minnesota. And like you said, he was a drummer. He was a backline guy. He goes to the festivals and drops shit off, and he'd worked for the Joan crew, I don't know, 15 times prior. To me, and he was good. He was up for the guitar tech gig before Zach, I believe. We were trying to push him in, but like you said, he gelled with me and Billy, and at the time it might have been, Joe or whoever. I don't know. It was just me and Billy at that point. That was constant. But the backline guy, when you go on a gig and he starts talking to you the way that you understand, there's confidence and there's, okay, good. And maybe I won't have the best set of gear, but I got somebody here that's giving me options and shit to do. It's all about being fucking, comfortable, because as the touring tech, you're going into the gig blindsided.
Exactly.
Andy, you can advance a show 100 times, even with lighting, and you're going to expect 50%, but hope not for 60 or 70% of the time that you're not going to get what you want or expect.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I know Donnie's had that issue too with the wrong drums coming and showing up, and then it's like,
but also the other side. There's another side of backline that it's like, hey, I get it because I've done it, and it's but because I think that's the advantage we have. For instance, I'll give you an example. We show up to a gig, and our rider has, for instance, moon gel heads, backup heads, basically, stuff like that. I guess the trick of the trade is you don't pull it out unless they ask for it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Totally. So I love seeing the face on a backline tech when he comes and I'm like, hey, so where's the moon gel heads? It's like, oh man.
Back to the truck.
Yeah. So I
But
get it. I've been there. So
I also think a lot of the backline techs and a lot of the lighting, production people are a little bit more to helping the Blackheart crew than any other band. I feel that as if, at least in my time, and we've had some sick crews, Annie. I've been on the crew with Annie. I've been on the crew in a diminished capacity with Donnie, but you know what I mean? We've spent time in hotels together, but we've done gigs together. But not like Billy and Brandon. Oh God. But I think that a lot of fucking people, they realize that, oh, Joan's coming through. They're cool. They just have this already. There's a reputation with you guys in particular of being cool and going with it. And I think that it's really trickled down through the years. So everybody that works with Joan really wants to be like, hey, man, this is going to be a cool gig no matter what. So they're really adept to helping you. You do get the fucking occasional assholes, you know.
Right.
But for the most
I would
part,
like to bring that up with
Go ahead,
Donnie.
Annie.
We're not going to mention the band.
Let's hear it. I want to hear this.
But I already know. I know that you know what I'm talking about. Joan was the opening act for this band, and sometimes the headlining crew is not nice to the opening or support band, even if it's Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And
I'm getting fired up here.
I remember running from front of house to the stage because I saw the techs throwing all of the drums on top of your drum rug and dragging it off the stage. And I was like, oh my God. So I like ran to help you. And I'm like, what do we need to do? And he's like, I can't believe they just did this. Like wires, cables, they just literally threw all of the stuff. Like, I don't want to mention the band.
Yeah, it was just I mean, look, I don't think I've ever been in that situation and could imagine someone being that
aggressive.
Yeah, just to be just downright rude. And not only that, it's one thing if you're going to do that, but it's another thing if you're going to do that to Joan. And I mean, I'm lucky enough I get to say I work for her, but it's like, Joan is Joan. You know what I mean? Like, come on, this isn't it shouldn't be done in the first place. But yeah, like Annie said, I remember my patience being tested that night, but I was like, you gotta be cool. You gotta be cool. You know, so it was definitely an odd night. Yeah, I would say that. So,
and it was like all ends too. Like, and I think that sometimes will trickle down from, I guess, management, something like that. Yeah. But like each area, like everyone had their own issues, like throughout the day. Like I had issues with the merch people, like just like throwing me down as like, you know, and the lighting, like they didn't want to give me anything, even though they said they would, and things like that. And it was just like a big mess of a gig. Beef, I'll text you who it was.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to try and guess.
I'm going to bleep it out. Yeah, okay, you
can
guess it.
All right. Oh, because I'll tell you the story about and you can bleep out when I talk about because I got no qualms about talking about that shit.
I've never did a gig with them. So.
But we had problems with a as well, which leads me to believe these guys are the culprits. Dude, we squared off crew, band, and management on the side of the. Fuck, you have to bleep everything out, Andy. This is going to be great. You can't say when it was. You can't say the band. You can't say who was involved. I'm pretty sure. I think Aaron was there. Billy Crater was there. It was so bad, bro. And oh, dude, they were fucking assholes. But it wasn't. I'm not trying to like compare stories, but the whole thing goes back to. How the fuck can you disrespect the queen? Yeah. I say the queen of rock and roll. There are several that hold the title, but the queen of rock and roll.
No,
how are you going to disrespect that person?
I agree.
Right, especially like had that, you know, with a lot of venues, bands, things like that. Like they always compliment our crew.
Right.
You know, always. Yeah, even before you, Annie.
Right. Yeah, like I always heard that because we go into gigs. You know, when I was starting out, I'm going to gigs that you guys have done already. And they're always like, oh, we love working with you guys. Your crew's great, you know, and then that reputation goes around. And even when Joan's a support act for bigger bands, you know, that goes around and they're like, oh, we heard your crew's awesome. You know, we can't wait to be on the summer with you guys, things like that. I'll keep it out unless you want to guess one more time who it was.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if you sent it to me.
I didn't send it to you.
All right. Give me a timeline and a genre.
I think it was last year, right? It was in LA.
Oh, I know exactly the date. It was
it was doomsday to us. It was like the worst gig.
It was the worst gig.
Remember, Annie was. It was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
A band, would you say they're bigger than Joan in the sense that they're bigger? Were they there?
In their genre, I guess.
But I don't really keep up with where she is when I'm not in the loop, because you guys are everywhere. I know you're out there, but I'm in the home base, you know, doing the fucking dirtiest work of all. I couldn't guess, so I'm going to say offhand, an 80s band.
Are they an 80s band? Well, okay. It was.
Yeah.
Oh, God! We're going to have to bleep this whole thing. But
yeah. Rough. That was a rough gig.
That was, it was rough. Like, it was crazy because I just found this, like, very, the lack of respect was just, like, you know what I mean? The
overwhelming.
Yeah, it was insane, man. I couldn't. It was just
his people,
you know, it was just insane. It was like they got a memo, like, "Oh, Joan's here, like, you know, be a dick." You know, it's weird.
Which was great, yeah. And it was always like they wouldn't say her name. Like the merch manager was like, "Oh, help her with the opening act. Help her with the opening act." I'm like, "Excuse me, like Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Hall of Famer. Like, come on, like,
respect.
Why are you being so rude? Like, this is not." Which still, like, you don't be rude to just someone you don't know. I'm like, you know, and they kept me there till 2:00 in the morning, just for no reason, just because.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Be, you know, rude and show their egos, I guess. But
I think you guys might have actually touched on a whole other episode we should do about nightmare gigs.
That's a good one too.
Yeah,
that was definitely
I know Donnie and I have spoke about that gig numerous times.
You know, and that's crazy is that, and Annie knows, I'm a super fan of so that night was even more crushing for me. I don't know. I mean, maybe, you know, it could have been anything. It probably wasn't even personal. It's just, you know, who knows?
I think they were just, you know.
Yeah. I could only imagine if someone did that to their gear. That's all I could say. Like, what would they say? You know. So.
You certainly would not have treated their gear like that.
Oh, never at all.
I never would either. No.
I mean, wouldn't do that to the local band that you never heard of.
That's probably the issue that I had overall. Wouldn't do that to anyone or ever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, let's turn it to the opposite end instead of nightmare gigs. What was your first gig with Joan? Like, do you remember what gig it was and where it was?
Yeah, I think you guys played a few times. That yearly place out in it was beautiful out in Napa, I believe, in San Francisco area.
Marin County Fair.
No, it was this private event at this little. Remember, Annie was like a very tight amphitheater, and it was really, but it was at a winery.
Oh.
And,
I know what you're talking about.
And we were like
a castle winery.
Yes, way up in the mountains.
Is it like Saratoga?
Something
like that. It's not Saratoga, but something.
Yeah.
Mountain View?
I think it may have been.
It might have been the amphitheater in Mountain View, Shoreline, California.
So I can't remember where, but I know it was Northern California, and it's beautiful. It was insane. That was my first gig. And I was so nervous. Oh my God.
That's my next question. How nervous were you when you met Joan?
Oh, well, even before that, man. Like,
you got the call.
Well, Actually, to be honest, I don't even know if I ever told Annie this. Like, that morning, so I got there the night before, didn't meet anyone, I hadn't even seen Mikey yet. And I'm in my room and I'm like, I'm feeling good. I wake up the next morning and Mikey's like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm good. That's what I told him. I'm like, dude, I had anxiety. I felt like I was going to puke. Like, I'm about to go on this bus with people I don't know, I've never met. And I'm walking on one side. I'm starting to walk to the bus because I saw where the bus was. And Mikey's like, I'll meet you on the bus. I'm like, cool. So I'm walking. I look on the far side of the parking lot, and I see this redhead girl. And I'm like, she's got to be with him. But yeah, I said that. I'm like, she's got to be with Jones Crew. She has to be. And so I see her again. It's Annie, of course. And Annie walks on the bus, and I walk on. And I'm like, hey. And immediately, man, everyone was super cool. I felt like, and I met Annie, and I think I met Zach, and I can't remember who else before Mikey even walked on. And so, everyone made me feel like at ease and stuff. But then getting to the gig, I had already had pictures, kind of schematics of what Mikey's drum kit looked like, but that only helps. That doesn't really, it's still like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
And so, Mikey took the time to come out and actually do it with me there and showed me once, man. And that was it. And after that was, Mike would come every now and then, which he still does, makes a few adjustments here and there. But I just try to get him as close to as where he's comfortable every night,
How many cymbals has he added since you started?
Actually, none. He's still on the same amount.
Listen, man, you got to get him to downgrade. We got Tommy Price off the double bass pedal on my tenure. You got to get him down.
But he uses all of them. He uses all of them except for that bell.
I know that bell. He won't use it.
Yeah.
But it's
he
there.
does it. I see him. He dings it and then looks at you.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
during Crimson and Clover.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's the only time. Yeah.
Once. It gets one hit.
One. It's the Crimson Bell.
Yeah. And that's why it's there.
Totally.
Oh, so I had the complete opposite, the complete opposite. I was thrown in on, I was told to show up to 25th at the Locker, and I met the only way I could describe him was a mad scientist resembling Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown, and with black, frilly hair, and he basically said, so my you're gonna have to bleep a lot of this, Annie, but a lot of it, seriously. But my interview was basically, okay, you're gonna do this gig, yep, all right, first things first, you got any weed? Yeah. Okay, good. And then he told me what to do, and Tommy showed up, I don't know, 35 minutes before they were supposed to play. There was no sound check. I had no fucking pictures. I had no schematics, nothing. Complete opposite of you. You're walking on the bus with Annie. Right. Oh, hey, how's everyone? I had to go over to SIR truck with Billy, and Billy was like, because I was a new guy, it was a different time, but I'm like, wow, this is such a good story because my gig was completely opposite. We played with great band, the Smithereens.
Oh wow, yeah.
God rest Fat Frank, right?
Wow.
Man, and this was a hometown gig, and you said Mountain View, California. Mine was Mountainside, New Jersey. And that's funny. And the Smithereens lived within walking distance, and they walked over. It was really cool. And They Might Be Giants opened up for us.
Oh, wow.
And they were doing the afternoon show. So my first gig was Might Be Giants and Smithereens and Joan. But it was the way you talk about meeting Annie and Annie's so nice. I was like, that was so. I got there and I had those big silver Tommy Price cases from fucking Billy Idol and what is it, Mink DeVille, and I literally picked these old Sonar kits up, and I didn't have the right drum key. Because Sonar at the time had the slots.
Yeah,
the Sonar keys. Right. Because they're like, oh yeah, you're a drum tech, so you gotta have a key. So I brought a little bunch of keys, and I'm like, I can't tune this fucking drum. And I start to use a screwdriver, and Billy's like, I knew it. He had the key, you know. But,
Billy.
Like Billy.
It was so quick. It was so fast. It was not comfortable. I was so fucking nervous. Tommy came out 40 minutes before the show. He basically adjusted, like you said. I wish I had time with him. You know, like you had.
Right.
Oh, it's so funny, man. But like you said, man, if you're a good tech, like Donnie talks about, and if you're a good production person, you can roll with anything. And how many fucking times did you get to a gig and you were just like, everything is wrong?
Oh, a lot.
more than not.
Yeah. When it is right, you're like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you.
So, and Donnie, right after that, was that like a run of shows or was it just a one-off? Because you said it was a bust, right?
Actually, how that went down was that was only a few shows. I think there was another one after that the next day. I can't remember where. Obviously somewhere near there. I can't. I know there was 2 shows that they brought me out for. And then I went home and Mikey kept putting the feelers out like, hey, are you available? And I'm like, yeah, just let me know. I went back to the backline company and he's like, I'm pulling for you, man. I'm like, dude, I know how this works. Whatever needs to happen, I get it. He's like, I need you. I'm like, I want this gig too. If I can, let me know. And so it went on. And then I get a call. Donnie Ray? Well, he didn't say that, but Ed gives me a call. And I guess Ed feels, you know, he feels me out basically and fills me in on what's going on, and said that a lot, you know, that Mikey really wants me and everyone. There was other people. Zach, if I'd be interested in coming in, did drum tech, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. And then the question right after that was, do you have a passport? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, can you go to Australia? I'm like, hell yeah, you know. So, and that's how that happened, man. It was like
your first major thing was Australia.
Pretty much, man. It was it blew me away. Well, other than doing those few shows with Cheap Trick too, man. My heart was just like, whoa, this is insane, dude.
It's Cheap Trick. I mean,
you know, exactly, man.
Everybody in this podcast has something to do with Cheap Trick in like their heart.
I mean, I was just like, this is insane. You know, it was really cool.
Did you was it who was teching for him at the time? Dax was Todd. Todd, but who was before him? Not Skizzy. What was his name? Sketch. Skitch. Yeah, Skitch.
He was a while ago though.
And he filled in for me because I'm a total fuck up, as you know that.
I actually, to talk about going into gigs with notice, Beef pulled out on a gig, and Skitch was actually supposed to be my merch guy, and I was like, "You're teching for Tommy Price today, by the way."
Yeah,
like literally the morning of the gig.
Oh, I heard this.
And, hey, sorry, but good for Skitch, you know.
Also, the guitar tech was new. So literally only me and Billy knew how to set up the stage, which I don't set up the stage.
Was that Daryl? Daryl?
Which it wasn't his fault either.
No.
Because it was his first gig too. So we had Skitch, who was also first gig, and Brandon wasn't there. So it was literally me and Billy trying to set up the stage, which Billy works front of house, I work lighting, and I'm like, this isn't my thing. So, but he kept calling Brandon also on purpose, like, where do I put the set list? Where do all the guitar picks go? Like all these like things. He just kept calling him to like.
I feel bad. I remember that one.
That was a big. That was a skeleton crew. Thing.
We can laugh about that one now, right, Annie?
Yeah, we can laugh now. But it happened, you know. The gig went, you know. It was all good. So
and that started my second or third Black Sheep that was my, swim back down to the Blackheart pool.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to bleep a lot of shit. But
This
I
also
feel bad. I
episode's
felt so bad, but you know what? Again, I was a bad boy. I felt bad. I really did. I feel really bad, but it's a funny story now that it's over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
everything's
a while
good,
ago.
right?
Yeah.
Hey, Donnie, when's the first time we actually met? I can't
I
remember
knew
what gig it was. Was it a New York gig?
it
Probably.
was. Hey, Annie, it was that show.
What?
It was a show, I believe, where it's a little over a year. No, it's been like 2 years. Where Ed was like, he tells the girl, remember we get there and all the equipment's in the front. It's a private event. It's in December.
Oh,
And,
that's the pier. The pier.
No, it was the other one where they
I know.
all day with the aesthetics and stuff on stage. And Ed was like, if you don't get this off the stage right now and get my boys on stage, we're loading the trucks up and we're out of here. Do you remember that place?
Yes. It was I think it was at like a hotel.
Yeah, it's like very
Edison,
posh,
the Edison Ballroom.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't the Edison, but
I went with you that night. We went to see the tree that night.
Yes, we did. I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Was it?
Annie, this is the gig where you had no view, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah.
It wasn't Gotham Hall, was it?
Yeah. Derek was at the pier, Annie.
Okay.
It wasn't Gotham Hall, right? No, that was a couple years before you.
I don't know. No, I don't think so. But I
You
know
said
it
it
was
was in
freezing.
No,
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was
I
December.
remember we were in Midtown and we walked. Me, you, and Brandon walked to the tree.
Yes, exactly.
I can't think of the fucking place, but I remember the gig like it was yesterday.
Was this also the one where I had to go and pick up one of the cases that Billy and Brandon left at the gig the day before? So I had to drive in to the city.
Did I also have a keyboard from Kenny that day?
I think it is.
Yeah, this was a bit of a mess of a gig that day.
Any New York gig. I remember. Well, we all three were on it. That's legendary.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was the first time I met you. And holy shit, that was a good one. We saw the tree. I fucking remember that.
Yeah.
I have pictures of that. I'll send them to you, Annie. You'll flash them.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh man, you can't even see the tree now unless you got a ticket.
Really?
Yeah, COVID, bro.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they like barricaded. You can't get close to it. You can still like see it though. But I'm not going into the city.
I got in there. I was working for. I got back. I had a couple of days at SIR, so there's a bunch of stuff going on. So we got to go to Saturday Night Live, and that's the dock is right on 50th Street, which is right by the tree on the other side of the street.
Right.
You know the deal.
Right.
The Rock Center dock, and I saw it the other day because it was 7 a.m, and they let us roll by it and chill for a minute looking at the tree,
Right.
But my brother's stationed there doing traffic because he's NYPD.
Oh, right on. Okay.
It's so funny, but that gig was funny. We went. I'm trying to think. I'll bet Brandon would remember, but I can't remember the hotel.
I could probably look it up in my itineraries.
Of course you did. Fact check with Annie.
Totally.
But and then the next time we really spend time together, all three of us, WrestleMania.
Totally. That was.
I think
awesome.
that could be a completely other podcast, really. WrestleMania. That has to.
That was awesome, man.
That was beyond. I don't even want to get into it because you start talking about it, there's not enough time. There's just not enough time.
Yeah. Totally.
But suffice to say, that was probably. I mean, dude, Donnie, you're a wrestling guy, I don't know how big of it you were when you were a kid, but we're relatively in the same age group. So it had to be something for you, and of course for Annie.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I was a kid, it was Mid-South Wrestling.
Oh, don't get me started, dude.
So,
I know all about Mid-South.
Yeah, so yeah.
Some of the greatest voices and commentary ever came from the Mid-South. Lance Russell, everyone. I can't get into it. I'm shutting up. We're gonna have to do a wrestling podcast. We got a WrestleMania Crewicide podcast.
Yeah, but Donnie, why don't you tell your the highlights of WrestleMania for you?
All around, I mean, dude, just being able.
2 days.
That was
awesome.
just. I mean, and just walking down the tunnel and seeing everyone, You know what I mean? And for me, it was actually sizing them up, not in that way, but sizing them like physical size, like, that's how tall that's how tall he is, you know, or stuff. Well, that too, but yeah, especially. But Annie. But no, I mean, it was just cool, man, to see like be a part of something that was that huge, and see, you know, I think you were with us when we all had the chance to like walk the whole, you know, and we walked around filming. Like that was super cool, man. Like that was, I think, pretty cool. Oh, I wouldn't call this a highlight. I'd call this a like, oh my god moment. Do you remember when we went on? We had no power. Like, do you remember that? We're like, they're like, go now. We're like, there's nothing on. They're like, you need to go. I'm like, we have no power.
Right.
Yeah,
you know,
holy shit, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm flipping. I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, there's like millions of people watching this, and like, there's no power. And all of a sudden, it just went, whoop, and like, go. You know? So,
and I remember their crew. I mean, they have like an A-list crew with WWE. Like they have like one of the best crews like ever. You know,
ever.
But yeah, I remember that too. With like, there's no power, and me and Gary Hood are like literally behind the bass amp, like trying to find everything.
Yeah, I remember that. Gary's flipping out, man.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
I was with Gary. I think I was looking. I was just like, because I mean, I'm out of it. You guys are like, you know, the guys. I'm there for like extra support.
Right.
I'm like, I don't see shit, you know.
Right.
And then they started us off.
The only thing I cared really so much too about than anything for Mikey's drums, at first I was like, oh, he's fine. And then I'm like, oh no, his butt dumper.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh my, yeah. Everyone's affected. Kenny's keyboards weren't turning on. Like nothing was on. Man.
It was probably a breakdown in communication from when they switched over the stage. Obviously, somebody down underneath the stage didn't hit the breaker, but I completely forgot about that until you mentioned that. And then bring it back to, you know, starting us off stage, going through the Titantron, you know, the video board.
Yeah.
And then the highlight of my life, I think, and Annie's probably... I mean, there's so many highlights of this night. I think that in all my years of watching wrestling at WrestleMania, one of the most iconic moments is when the curtain moves and the star comes out. And Annie's sitting on one side. I think Ed was behind me. I was right up front. Annie was right there. And Annie's on one side. And they're like, okay, here she comes. And you know, she walks out, and Annie pulls the curtain on one side, I pull the curtain on the other, and we opened the curtains at WrestleMania.
That's awesome. That's so rad.
Annie, am I right, or did I imagine this, or did this happen? Seriously, did you do that, or did I just imagine it?
I don't know. I know I was in a corner right when Rhonda walked out. So
and you can see it in the 24/7. Not that I watch it, but I've seen parts of it.
My red hair does go.
You can see your red hair, and you can see my fucking top hat. This is a different one. This is my Dana White top hat, which is another era of touring beef. But my UFC top hat, that's another story. That's the LA Chronicles. But you can see Annie pulling. I'm almost positive you held I held one side open, you held the other side.
I might have too, because I was like in another corner. But also, like, while we were, you know, we did the setup the night before, blah blah, and then when we went to go set up and do the stuff, I'm like, where do we go when the band goes on?
Right.
The gorilla position.
I'm like, no one discussed, because there was a part of the wall that lifted up. They pushed the band under, but then they put that wall down. I'm like, where does the crew go? Like, where are we going after? Like, you know,
really funny. Right through. You had to go. We went right through the middle.
Yeah.
And that whole time I'm sitting there, this whole time I'm like, dude, fucking Chuck Zito's right next to me, and I keep looking down because I don't want to step on his fucking boots and get my ass kicked. You know what I mean?
It's so funny that you mentioned Chuck. So funny. He's so funny you mentioned him. He was there, man. I remember actually my first time meeting Chuck and thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
The exact same thing.
Yeah, it's got nice boots. I don't want to step on them.
What is that?
And that's like that's a public appearance for Chuck. You know what I
Totally.
mean?
But,
So
yeah.
he's done up nice, and he's
Right.
on the job. It was like Chuck, Donnie, Ed, everybody. You know, this and that. It's insane that we were all huddled. That particular area in the wrestling world is called the gorilla position. And that's where the booking guys and Vince was sitting there. Remember,
Mhm.
Shane was there. You know, Rollins was there because, you know, he's hanging out with, you know, somebody. But all of the main people.
Stephanie. Yeah.
Stephanie was there. I didn't see Stephanie, or maybe I just didn't, you know, it was, I saw McMahon. He acknowledged me at one point, and it was just like, everybody, it was a dream. We're going to have to do another podcast about that.
Just on WrestleMania. All right, so to move on from WrestleMania, then we did get to go to Australia last year, which was pretty amazing. Which was my first time there, your first time there. What was a highlight of Australia? I guess.
I mean, to be honest with you, the shows were amazing.
I gotta pee. Keep talking.
No
Okay.
worries. I think the highlight for me was Jones' one-off gig in Melbourne at that the club show.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that was cool, very intimate kind of like, you know, scene and but also, I mean, the whole summer tour that we did too was amazing. But I think also walking Australia, you know, I mean, you know, coming with you, walking everywhere, I thought it was really cool. Like and you know, and I'm not that type of person to actually do that, and I thank you for that, because I really got to take in a lot of Australia. And I think if I didn't know you, I would have never done that much. I'm so bad about that, and but since then, now even touring when I hit other states now, and because of you, you know, I get to do that more, and I'm glad. When I toured earlier in my life when I was younger, I didn't do any of that. I'd go into a city, I'd be off 3 or 4 days and lock myself in a hotel room and don't even know why. It's just, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And
I we've been there, done that. You know, when you're like really done a bunch of gigs and you're like,
right.
Okay.
Exactly.
You know, but yeah, I like to just, you know, gotta get out there and do things. You know, something.
Yeah. Well,
even if
it's
it's just running for a coffee.
Absolutely. I mean, even that to me is what I miss, to be honest with you. Being home is those little things, getting up before the gig and going to find a coffee, you know, and stuff, and talking about last night's gig and, you know, and stuff like that. Those are the cool things. But in Australia, I mean, also meeting all the other crews and bands that we toured and we played with there. Especially the backline company there. Speaking of backline, those guys were amazing, and like I thought they were cool in every way. They had everything we needed.
And we had an Australian tour manager, Butters.
Oh, Butters, he was amazing.
Oh, is that who what's Buttersworth is?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. He was your tour manager because Ed didn't make the trip. I understand. Yeah.
Well, we had JD with us. But Dave was was the Australian tour manager, but he kind of stayed with the crew, and then JD was with the band. So, but Dave did a lot of the driving for us, you know, for the crew. So he, you know, but they speak English there, but there's also like still a
barrier.
There's still a barrier there. So like they would talk really fast about things, and you're like, what did they just say? Oh, I'm like, especially food. I'm like, what did I just order?
Yeah,
you know, and it's just weird because it's like you know, it's a bizarre thing because you're like, wait, we're all saying the same thing, right? But just certain things mean different things, and you're like, wait, Butters, what does this mean?
Yeah, Tim Tams.
We had an issue with that in England at first, and Scotland too.
Yeah, Scotland, man. I when I was there, it's crazy. Like the thing I've always said,
it's awesome there.
I love it there. We played Glasgow, and the crazy thing is like I had so much trouble understanding, and maybe it's just me being dumb American or whatever. I couldn't understand right away. I always was like, I'm sorry, what was that? But it seemed to me like whatever I said the first time, they got, you know? So I'm like, why? I just, it was very fast, like Annie said.
They're very fast.
Fast. I'm like, so.
I can only imagine what it's like hearing a New Yorker talk for the first time, like like Annie,
Right.
Beef, and Billy talk,
Right.
I'm
used to it now, but when being a Texas boy, when I first started touring, I got to NY and I heard that, and I think I was more amazed than anything. Like, oh, there it is. I hear it. There's a fuck you. There's a finger. There's a honk.
Yeah, there you go. You're putting it all together.
So
I think because the crew is now it's split up, but by default for all of your time in New York, and where Blackheart is a New York band, you might be by default the New Yorker.
Yeah, totally. Well, I love it there, man. It's awesome. I fucking love New York.
What the funny thing is? I always love Texas. I think Texas and California are the most states I've been in when I start counting actual gigs. Gigs. And we had a great guy in Austin. Man, I wish I could track him down. Maybe I'm going to shoot his name out. Big Scotty, just a big Scotty. His name's Scotty, and he was an Austin boy, and he used to do the driving and runner stuff for festivals. And he was an Austin guy, and he fucking took us, me and Billy, the first time I was in Austin to Seals General Store. Mm-hmm. Where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was, and they do barbecues and weddings there now too.
Right.
But he took us there right away, and I was like, and he took us, to the most amazing barbecue spot. I'm just a big Texas guy at heart. I really am. I had good Texas gigs. Dallas was my first ever one-off. We did it was my first ever one-off with Joan where I got flown out, like you fly into a gig. It's always had a special place in my heart. It was my first gig ever other than New York. You know what I mean?
Right.
So my first fly date, and I just love Texas. So it's funny,
Mine was in El Paso.
Oh, yours was?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have where's Juarez? Is that San Antonio or El Paso?
No, that's El Paso right there.
I got a great story about that with Zach and I. It ended up us on stage throwing things back at the audience and shielding bottles. It was great. I love Texas. I shaved my head, and then the next day we went to San Francisco, and I got bald, and I got fucking burnt.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, there's so much we could talk about.
Do you have any other gig highlights or something you could recall?
Yeah, but some I can't speak on.
Okay.
But and if I said that, Manny, you would be like, "Oh my God, yeah."
Which one? I'll edit it out. Bus etiquette? Does that have to do with bus etiquette?
No, well, not that. No. I'm talking about even after that.
Okay.
I
will say Dallas, Texas, as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good town. Oh,
what happened?
I'll
take it out.
He's gonna bleep everything, cut it,
and then everything. It'll be
blur everything. Put in question mark music.
You sent away early. I think it was because you were so fed up. Remember? We went downstairs and that whole fiasco.
Yeah, you were so fed up at something. That's just so funny.
Annie, she was like, "Just go, you guys have a good night." Donnie and I. At first, I was like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's right. Screw that." Yeah,
okay.
they're good.
Well, we can add this in without adding their names in. Part of the crew was inebriated at the end of a long day, and they were just complaining about we had to wait for the backline crew to get their gear out. Our pickup was showing up late, so I just sent them away. I said, I said, Donnie, I'll help you load the truck by like we'll get it done. I'd rather stay late with you and get it done peacefully. Thank you guys. Everyone go to sleep. Everyone needs a nap.
But I guess I don't know if it's a highlight or a low light,
but there's so many. There's just so many good stories. And then, that's what this shit is all about. Sitting here talking about it. It feels good. Although I wasn't, as I'm not as active with you guys as, I once was, but it's like, we're still a fucking family. I fucking love you, Donnie. I love Annie so fucking much. I met you from day one, and I was like, this guy is fucking Blackheart. Like, I knew it because I've seen all the people that have come through Blackheart, and Annie has seen a good deal too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Annie has seen a very good deal. You fucking fit the fucking mold. You're, awesome, and I love you to death, and I'm so glad you're part of our family, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've been a fan of Jones since I was a kid, and that's the truth. And I tell friends this all the time. Like I have my moments when I'm on stage and I've got my ears in. And it's halfway through the show, and after my anxiety's gone from the first 2 or 3 songs, and make sure Kenny's not looking at me, make sure Mikey's not looking at me, make sure Dougie's not looking at me. After I make sure everyone was cool, especially make sure Mama's not looking at me. After all that, I'll sit there and have a moment. I look out in the crowd, and then it hits me, and I'm like, holy shit, I work for Joan Jett. What the fuck? Like, that's crazy, man. It does. I have my moments, man.
Here, man. You just hit that shit on the spot.
That's something I don't ever forget. And every day that I'm on stage, I'm like, I remember that, and it's really cool, man. So it's one of the best gigs, I'll tell you, anyone could have, to be honest with you. My opinion. Yes, I'm biased to it, but I mean, if anyone else had this gig, even before me, all of you guys, it's a gig of gigs, man. It's awesome.
It's really something prestigious. It has something, and we know the inner workings of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
We know the inner workings of it, and I guess a senior member that's been around longest time, Annie definitely has 10 years straight, which is a lot of road miles, and but if Billy was here, of course he's senior, but as somebody that's like, I've seen, the inner workings, but to actually sit back and say, all right, we're a fucked up family, it's a fuck, like any other situation, you got to make it work. We're a fucked up family, but holy shit, take into perspective the fact that what you're doing and who you're doing it with means something to so many on so many levels. And it's prestigious in the business to work for her. It's prestigious in my own personal, and I'm sure in yours and Annie's own personal lives, what the prestige means to you. And it carries for years. I always said this. Joan made my fucking career.
Oh yeah, man. I owe her it all, man. Not only that, for my sanity, for meaning things how I was feeling at the time when the call came. It's at a perfect time, man. It was everything aligned at the right place,
Oh, we could do another one about that one. I know the feeling, and I'm sure Annie, when you broke in, and we could touch on this, and then I honestly have to get going because dinner's ready in a minute. I'm sorry. Sure. Not that I'm pushing it, but you guys can continue. But Annie, breaking in, like, I remember, and we've talked about this, meeting you in Staten Island and seeing you there. I don't, not detail, but I know that you were there, and I remember you were with a friend of yours. And, somehow you managed to get into Blackheart and where you are. Did you ever think after that day you'd be where you are?
No, because I guess what you're talking about is like when I went to a Jones show when I was like in high school, and I had no idea what I wanted to do in life or anything like that.
Sandy Gennaro, right? You knew somebody from Sandy Gennaro or somebody from...
No, a girl I went to high school with, her dad was a booking agent, and he like got us tickets and said, "Oh, do you want to go meet Joan?" And we're like, "Sure, cool," But then a few years later, I met Elena at the office at Warped Tour, and I said I wanted to intern, but I was a freshman, so I was like, oh, but I can't until I'm like, they usually don't let you intern in college until you're like a junior or senior, and I actually didn't follow up because I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm going to get it because I'm too young. And they had emailed me that beginning of the year and said, you want to come intern? And my college said, well, we can't give you credit. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. So I started as like a sophomore in college.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insanity. We could touch on all that shit, man. This was a good one.
But definitely Warped Tour is like a big.
That was a big one for me. That's another one. We could do like a whole Warped Tour thing. That was my first major. It had been a one-off in Mountain View in 2005. Then I think in December or January, we did a gig with Kasabian and Blondie.
Oh, wow.
For a private event. I think it might have been a magazine, Kerrang or Revolver. I can't remember. And that was at the old Spirit Hall, which was on 27th Street, which is now like a club. Long story short, I was like, that's it. I didn't hear from him until like March. And then it was, can you go to Dallas? You know? Right. I think that was a gig with Cheap Trick. And that's when Bunny was still playing with him.
Wow.
And that's when one of my first gigs was with them where, you know, we can go to sweet gigs too. I'd like to do another one where we talk about sweet gigs and like milestone gigs with bands like Blue Oyster Cult for me hitting the, you know what I mean? They let me do it, you know, shit like that. But that was like, man, you know, like I didn't think at all. And then it was like Sinner, you know what I mean? And then that's a whole nother story. That's basically when I solidified myself as the person for Blackheart at the time that will do anything for them in New York and their bitch, you know, be their bitch boy. And that was okay. We have an opening for a bitch boy, and that was it. But I wasn't the best tech. I wasn't the best. Come to think of it, no, yeah, I think Dallas was before Center. But come to think of it, I was not the best tech. I never claimed to be the world's greatest tech. I'm the world's greatest roadie. Warped Tour, it all goes to Warped Tour. The first major like touring experience and big thing was Warped Tour. But,
right.
On that note, I gotta head out, guys, because the old dinner's ready.
All right. Well, thank you, Donnie, for tuning in with us.
I had a great time. We'll do it again.
We miss you. I can't wait till we get to be on the bus again and back to gigs and stuff. But,
me too.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning into the Crewicide podcast, and we'll see you next time.
That's right.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Crewicide! 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 Crewicide!